Thank you to the board for your comments today. Let me just first express my sincere gratitude and love for everyone who expressed their support, not just towards me, but for this district and this important institution and what we do and what it means to the future of our children and the vitality of our communities. I've been here 9.5 years. I mean, interestingly, I stood in this room in 2011, made a commitment that I would try to stay here at least a decade. Because the average turnover in this country for superintendents in these large districts was somewhere around 2.5 to 3 years. You can't get anything done in that period of time. One of the biggest challenges you have is instability in leadership. A lot of it stems from issues in governance, personalities, et cetera. It's all adult issues. It's not about the kids. I always said if you never had to deal with adult issues, man, education could work like a charm in America. So 9.5 years I've had the honor of driving this bus, a bus full of amazing and hardworking teachers, education support professionals, food service workers, transportation workers, facility service persons, maintenance folks, principals, APs, clerks, 30,000 employees getting up every day to do what I consider the most important work in this entire county. You know, and I've always tried to do this work in a way that would make my mom and dad proud. Two people who had a third-grade education immigrated to this country so that their kids could have a better life. You know, they worked their butts off. My mom scrubbed toilets in homes. My dad was a construction laborer. They did all they could to make sure we always had food on the table. I was one of those kids that literally grew up and never, ever had a vacation. I never went to a theater. I never went out to a restaurant because we could not afford it. I remember when I got married, my wife's like, when do we go on vacation? I'm like, what are you talking about? So it's really just that ethic of hard work that I try to bring to everything I do. Try to do that as well as I can with as much integrity as possible. And every day I'm reminded of our successes and I'm driven by our failures. We've gotten better every day, every month, every year. And I believe that's what God's children expect and depend on us for. You know, we can talk about all the accomplishments of this district. They've been many. We've been proud of what we've accomplished over the past almost decade. But clearly, Stoneman Douglas changed a lot. You know, it's interesting. I was talking to Dr. Schoenfeld from the National Center for Crisis and Bereavement, and they've dealt with every single mass school shooting since Columbine, probably well over a couple hundred. And he said to me, you know, this is the only case we know of where parents and folks in the community have organized to try to remove the superintendent. I remember having, was on a panel with the superintendent from Sandy Hook, and, you know, he was just telling me how parents invite him over to their place for cookouts and so on. I was like, wow, that's definitely not what is the experience that's here. It's been what I see as frustrations and grievances. I think those are things that should be temporary, but our goals should be and should have some level of permanence. We can't let those frustrations and anger defeat the noble and honorable aspirations and ambitions that we have in this district for our children. You know, we're unfortunately in a climate where forgiveness, compassion, and love have far too often taken a backseat to grievances, anger, and hate. The ongoing assault and attacks and political interference on what we do have been enormously challenging for all. Not to mention, we heard some of them today, the wildly inaccurate conspiracy theories that loom out there that folks like to perpetuate. This cannot be the world that we want our children to inherit. It just can't be. It's certainly not an environment that I can effectively lead this district for the long term, unless there's a real desire for reconciliation to move forward. And it doesn't seem like there is. You know, my performance cannot exceed the collective capacity and will of this board that I work for. But I'll tell you this, I cannot and will not put myself above the needs of this district and our children. I love our kids too much to do that. It's the only reason I do this work. It's not about me. It's about the kids that we try to serve each and every day, so that those kids who have parents who scrub toilets and work as laborers, that they can have the same kind of opportunities that I've had in this country. And if the environment is not as such that I can do my very best, I'm willing to discuss a path to a mutual agreement of separation as you described, Ms. Aldef. I know you've been in enormous amounts of pain that none of us can ever imagine, and I guess I'm probably part of the source of that in some way. And so if it's going to give you peace, and it's going to give you and those other parents who remain angry because I don't see how there's anything else I can do, if it's going to give you that, I will step aside so you can have the peace that you are looking for. I just ask that you really just focus on what's in the best interest of these kids, because we can't let our grievances and frustrations override that, no matter how difficult the things are that we're going through. So if that will help you get some closure that you need in life to move on, and some of the other families that are still angry, because I'm come to the conclusion there's nothing I can do. I've helped raise millions of dollars for the families. I've tried to help get, do everything I can. Written personal letters, made phone calls, do whatever it is I could. Nothing seems to change. So hopefully if I do that, you'll get some peace that you want. So given all that, I appreciate this board's grace and consideration, and I'll sit down and work through an agreement like you described, Ms. Aldef, if that's what you would like.
Ms. Myrick?